Hello and welcome to another edition of AB Talks. I'm delighted to be joined today by Montri Rawanchaikul, the CEO of PTT Exploration and Production. Montri, thank you for joining me and welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
So to start with, I think maybe it would be useful if you could give us a bit of an overview about who PTTEP are and why we're talking here in the UAE.
Right. Well, you actually said that PTT Exploration Production, and in short, it's a PTTEP. PTTEP is a national oil company under PTT, with our parent company, but we're doing on the exploration production. We've been in the business 37 years now. First 10 years was mainly in Thailand, with joint ventures of all the foreign investors that came into Thailand, the onshore oil fields, offshore gas fields. Then we grew up. We started working overseas in international projects. We actually came to Middle East back in 2002 with a project in Oman. We were the operator of the oil and gas project in Oman, and we grew. Today we have about 40 projects, 40, around 15 countries. But recently, about 5 years, we were looking back at our history, the success we have, the failure we made. We did a lesson learned. We just said, let's look at where we're good at. So based on our experience, the expertise we have, we came up with a strategy that we call coming home. Coming home strategy is coming back to work where you're actually good at. And where we're good at, we believe that part of it is also in the Middle East, in UAE and in Oman, because we've been in this region for quite some time. So now the strategy is intact. We stay in Thailand, Myanmar, Malaysia, neighboring countries to Thailand, producing gas, supplying the gas to Thailand and the country that we invest in. And in the Middle East is in Oman and UAE.
So I think it's fair to say then that you have something of a history with this region, something with the UAE and Oman. I've seen recently there's been a couple of announcements from PTTEP. Right. Could you walk me through what the presence looks like here at the moment?
Sure.
What recent developments have been?
I think UAE just celebrated 50 years, the National Days last week. Thailand and UAE has a relationship, I think, about 45 years. That relationship actually grew over the period of time. Thailand, PTT, our parent company, as I said, is a major oil buyer. So we buy a lot of crude from UAE, from ADNOC, and we keep the relationship for some time. We start in Oman back in 2002, and more recently, in 2018, when UAE started opening up the exploration block, we worked through our partners, and now we became our partners. E&I is the operator. We are joint venture partners. So we had 3 offshore exploration blocks in Abu Dhabi, Block 1, 2, and 3. 3 just came up recently. 1 and 2 is about 2 years. So we're doing exploration. We think we're doing seismic surveys, and actually we drill well now. E&I is the operator, as I said. And we're comfortable working in this country, as a host country. UAE and Thailand is our good relationship that we managed over the last 45 years. So E&I saying, okay, we also have an onshore exploration. Would you be interested? So PTTEP say, yes, if we work with you and UAE as a host nation. So we expand our exploration to onshore Sharjah block, Area C, and I think that we take 25% of the exploration. The block is actually Expo for gas because ADNOC, the Sharjah National Oil Company, already have the gas processing plant producing gas from one block. So we think about the adjacent block. If we can find gas, then we can actually send it to that gas processing plant. So that's the recent investment we make in UAE. So we come in and we become a partner of that exploration block for gas in Sharjah.
So I think let's drill down here for a moment about the UAE in particular. I think it's fair to say that the Middle East is home to a few oil and gas providers.
Yes.
So what in particular draws PTTEP to the UAE as a partner,
right,
and to Oman as a partner, rather than looking elsewhere?
I think it came from several factors, but one of the important one is the vision that came out from CEO of ADNOC, His Excellency Dr. Sultan Al-Jaber. When he said that, UAE producing 3.8 million barrels a day, we'd like to grow it up to 5 million barrels a day. So when we heard about it, back in a few years when he gave a talk, we just said, well, that's a good vision. And I believe what he just said in a conference 3 weeks ago, energy is in the transition mode. But with the demand picking up after we come out from the COVID, the shortage of supply, you see the demand, outpace supply. So oil and gas still be in the energy transition. It will take some time before renewables and everything, the energy transition will come in. So we, as the oil and gas producer, we need to invest. I like that vision. I think UAE has a very clear vision that oil and gas is part of the energy transition to go into new form in the future. So that's why we said UAE is a good place that we should come invest.
Anything that we should look for in the future with the Middle East and the UAE?
A couple of things. If they have a new oil and gas exploration production, we would look at it. We would like to be part of the project to grow with them. Or renewables, energy transition, because, you see that the visionary leaders of this country now, with the innovation, with the technology, with, what they would look at in the future. PTTEP also have innovation that we came up with a number of things in the past. One of our projects actually won the best innovation award in UAE last year. So I think we're a good marriage that to go into in innovation technology venture in the future. So if we have a chance to go and looking at particularly investment in the renewables, in the innovation or technology with a host country like UAE, we would like to do so.
And you mentioned sustainability there a couple of times.
Right.
Increasingly a more important topic in the oil and gas industry. We're having this conversation now post COP26,
right,
post ADIPEC 2021. Right. In both events, sustainability was top of the agenda.
Yes.
I think it's fair to say as well that no one believes that the energy transition can occur without the oil and gas industry's support and efforts being made towards sustainability, right, towards new fuels. Talk to me about where PTTEP sits on this level. What kind of plays are you making in sustainability? Different fuels that you're looking at? Is there a play going to hydrogen? Where do you see the future? What is it that you guys are doing at the moment?
I think 5 years, longer than 5 years, people talk about disruption, if you hear this word. Energy disruption. We took a deep dive, we try to understand, and we believe that disruption in energy is not the things that you see per se, but you see energy transition. It's not like in a fintech or everything that you see disruption, but energy will be in a part of transition. So we look at it, to be able to keep the company going in terms of the business and be more sustainable. We have to come up with a clear business direction. One, we're good at oil and gas, so we keep E&P as our core business. Continue to do so, but core business, you have to change. You cannot live in this world by not putting concern on what they say, climate change, COP26 as you talk about. So E&P will have what we say, we gear towards gas, and gas has to be cleaner. When we say cleaner, what is it? Now we're looking at CCUS, carbon capture, utilization, storage. We believe that, what the project has been done successfully in Europe, that can also be implemented in Southeast Asia. Thailand can be a hub, if we look at it carefully in terms of carbon dioxide storage. The cross-country storage, that's what they've done successfully.
Yeah.
So one is to maintain, sustain our E&P business, keep it as a core. Secondly, what we call ourselves a cautious diversified player. So we need to go and look at a new business. So diversify into what? Into renewables, into technologies, into power sectors. That's what we're probably putting at a second direction. Thirdly, is energy transition, as we talk about. Energy transition can be a hydrogen, can be a new form of energy that you can actually use carbon dioxide. You do less emission, you can take carbon into a new form. So clear 3 directions of the company has now been set. That's what PTTEP is going. And that's will be form part of our sustainability target. So with a clear 3 business sectors.
So you did mention CCUS there, right, as one avenue, and mentioning that Thailand could be a hub. Are there any other technologies that you're looking at? As I mentioned, the UAE in particular has a stated goal of working towards becoming a hydrogen hub as a hydrogen player. Is there Do you have anything in line with that kind of goal? Is that something that you've been working on?
Indeed, I think UAE particularly, is a front leader of this the new technologies.
Green hydrogen, right? Yes. That was there, yeah.
So they can be, really implementing that. And part of it, as we are here, we like to be part of that a new venture into a new form of energy if we can. Part of it, if we can, jointly invest or jointly doing some research, we like to do that. But coming back to CCUS, I think to me it's a simple word to say, but it's harder to implement. Because CCUS, when I look at it, it's about 4 things that you need to be concerned about, or you need to be really looking at, deeply. One is the cost, the cost of doing it. Secondly, technology. You believe people can do it, but do you have know-how? You need technologies. Thirdly, which is more importantly, this one is probably the most important thing, is the policies of the country, the policy makers, the regulators. What do you do in terms of carbon storage? Do you have any incentives? Do they incentivize you to do that type of business? And lastly, it's what we call a learning workforce. Because you talked about before that, we have group of talent people in the oil and gas, but detecting them and find them and put them in the new upskilling into learning about carbon capture storage, that would be something that's quite challenging. So when I put this in things in a row, I think, the policy has to be clear. If we're going to do it with technology, with the cost, with the workforce we have, the policy maker has to come out and say, okay, let's do that. So CCUS is a simple word to say, but it's harder to implement.
Hey, thank you for that. So you did mention there's something that we touched upon before we sat down here and began having a conversation, which was around talent issues, specifically in the Middle East at the moment, regarding being able to hire enough talent, especially for renewable energy technologies and for sustainability.
Yes.
Is that an issue that you're facing? How are you approaching talent? How are you making sure that you have the right skills in the right places?
Very interesting question, and interesting to hear that, in the Middle East you find hard to get a new talent to come and work in oil and gas. I think it all comes back to, if you set your business direction, your direction is clear, then you can attract people. Like, we have mid-career that are already good at oil and gas working for us. Our workforce is about 3,000, 4,000 staff. If they're good at oil and gas, and we say that, producing oil and gas in the energy transition is what we call core business. So we need to strengthen them, we need to keep them going, doing the good things. And then we start targeting the new talent within that group, the new talent that they can be upskilled, they can go into, in the area of renewables, in the area of new form of energy. Attracting the people, young talents, new graduates into our company, we have to give them a room for them to think. With this generation, particularly when you work with a new generation, Gen Y and Gen Z, you need to listen to them. You have to, open your 2 ears between the head to get what they're saying. If they're good at something, we should let them do it or try it. So the new talent that's coming out, not necessarily coming to our company to work on oil and gas. If they can bring in something interesting, we like to try it. So that's the way that we attract a new talent.
So, you've mentioned a couple of times in this conversation already that EP is the core.
Yes.
Right. So is this new talent mostly coming in to help with the periphery rather than the core?
When I say EP is the core, sorry to interrupt you there, I need to say something. PTTEP was set up 37 years ago with a clear mission that we do E&P to provide energy supply to Thailand. So our mission is still clear. Now we're producing national gas in the Gulf of Thailand. We are in a neighboring country producing gas. Oil is part of it, but gas mainly. So when we look at the national security supply, that's very important thing that we do. So E&P is a core, not only for the revenue on the business side, but in terms of the security supply. That's a core business. And we know that our people are good at that. So we need to strengthen it. When I say strengthen it, efficiency of work, optimization of cost, the production target that we keep going. But as I said, we are now declared we are a cautious, diversified player. So we will diversify into new kind of business. And we'd like to open up for the new talent coming in thinking about energy transition, thinking about what else that we can do. Because if you keep saying core business, but the core will not be sustained over the period of time. I personally believe in gas, that gas will last 20, 30 years. But if you don't start it now, you find yourself in trouble when things start to crumble. So what we do now in our generation is not for us, but for the next generation.
Thank you, because you, I think, embraced exactly the point I was going for there in terms of the core of the business is changing and needs to adapt. So I think given that, you sit in an interesting position for my next question, which is, do you think the energy industry is doing enough to embrace sustainability? Where do we need to work on more, and where do the challenges still remain?
People said enough said, but not enough work. Only a few has been done in terms of this less carbon emission. That was the research came out. We need to do more. But on my view, I think when we need to do more, we need to work at a level, high level. The policy maker has to come out and say, look, we like to make this happen. This is what we can do with the policy. This is your incentives. This is what we like to do for the country. I've seen an advanced, project that a policy maker come out and do that, and then project take off the grounds. But sometimes I see it in reverse. The leader come out and say, we like to be carbon neutral by then. We like to be net zero by then, but there's no policy above it. So to me, we have done so little. We need to do more from the policy makers to come out and say, look, if you guys do this, and we will support you, and to make it happen.
So rather than this is what we want, it's more about this is how we do it.
I think we need to work collaboratively, from the government sectors and our investor like us. We really want to do it. We like to do a less carbon. We set a target. From our target, we like to see 25% less of our greenhouse gas emission from the baseline by 2030. And believe it or not, I just reviewed our 5 years plan before I came out here. That target will be met next year by 2022, 25% of the greenhouse gas reduction. That will be our target next year, 8 years earlier. But then what next? You cannot just say reduction of the greenhouse gas, because the world going to a net zero. Going to net zero, that's going to be carbon capture utilization, carbon capture storage. And that has to be on the bigger scale of the world. The policy makers, the carbon tax, carbon credit, the investment, the cost, the workforce.
So, we're talking now as well at the point where the COVID-19 pandemic seems to be receding. We do have the new variant, the Omicron variant, coming in, which has skittered markets over the last week or so. But despite that, a lot of people, a lot of experts might say that we are now returning to normality, or as we were speaking about before we sat down here, the new normal. Do you feel that the oil and gas industry has its mojo back? Are we back to normal? Are things happening in the same way as they were pre-pandemic?
Number of things to look at. Normality, as you said, is basically now we call it endemic. It's no longer pandemic. You have to live with it. Once you found someone get infected, you have to find a good medicine to help them to get over it. And we need to look after ourselves. During this pandemic, during the lockdown, we learned what we call a new normal. Some people call it next normal, I call it new normal. You can work from anywhere, you can work from home, the technology we have. So that would be a new normal that we like to implement in PTTEP. Starting from next year, we actually have a trial of this co-working space, hot seat, rotation, and so on. You can work from home, you can work from anywhere, as long as you have the technology and security in the technology because of the cyber attack and so on. We need to protect that. I think that can be done. So that would be a new normal that I see in this post-COVID. Industry-wide, when people say COVID shocked the demand, but soon after, when the economy start to recover, you will see that, as I said before, demand outpaces supply because people cut investment over the last few years. So when you shot in the surprise and you see the oil price start going up again, and that would be, that would be not sustainable, in longer term. The imbalance of demand supply that we need to think about.
Well, particularly in gas, right?
Particularly in
Europe,
gas.
Europe over the winter. Same problems in Asia. Do you see that going away anytime soon?
It will take some time to balance. It will take some time because gas, again, the shortage of the supply coming from a cut in the investment and also some issues, some problems of the LNG complex over the last 12 months. You see LNG complex shut down here and there. So now you see the shortage. Oil itself, oil is the same. When demand pick up, people start to travel. The jet fuel oil you need to put in the airplane. You don't fly the airplane with LNG or solar panels yet, right? So you still need jet oil to fly. And that's demand picking up, and you short in the supplies, you see imbalance. So that will be in another 4 or 5 years before things start to get in balance again, I think. But the opportunity coming out from COVID is there. People can have a better life. They can plan their life better. They want to work from home. They want to work less day in the office, but still be efficient because working from home, with technology and so on. And opportunity in our business, because the demand will start picking up.
So it's the implementation of these digitalization technologies and the change in work. Would you say that's the biggest long term that you've noticed?
Huge. You see that what we're doing today. We do Zoom, we do MS Team, we do whatever meetings over the world. But sometimes you don't have a physical meeting. Sometimes you lack of the sense that you can share. I think when we come out from this, when it becomes an endemic, people live with it. The connectivity, the technology is still there. Meeting will be online most of the time, but from time to time, people still like to meet up. Mm-hmm. So technology has changed big time.
Okay, a personal question for you then.
Sure.
You're the CEO of a firm, and you've gone through this period of digitalization. How has that affected the way that you've been able to manage your team and manage the company, where you have to move away from lots of in-person meetings to a much more spread out workforce and a much more digitalized workforce? How has that, have you noticed any direct changes?
Yeah, we spend more time at work because now you can structure your meeting over longer than 8 hours a day. You can structure your meeting over the weekend sometimes. But not only that, we feel that it takes our work-life balance. But of course, this is with the technology, with the growth of the company, you need to do that. You have to keep in touch with your staff who is away from you. But I also looking at a number of opportunities that we can participate because of we are away with the technology and so on. And when you have a chance, for example, this Expo, when we have a chance, we say, can PTTEP be part of it? We connect through the technology. We connect remotely. We talk about, we would like to be a platinum sponsor in the Expo 2020. And I think, in a Thai Pavilion, which is now, a successful one, everything was done successfully with the talk online. Mm-hmm. So they don't actually meet in person and so on. That's, again, the technology. But imagine how many hours people have to put in, to sit in front of computers to talk about, what we like to do instead of just meeting in person. So technology will change your life big time. It's already changed. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you mentioned Expo there.
Yeah.
I think it's a fair point for us to discuss what it is that PTTEP is doing in its participation with Expo 2020 in Dubai. If you could give me an overview of what we can expect from PTTEP at Expo 2020.
You'll be surprised when you come to see PTTEP booth, which will be demonstrated from the first 2 weeks of February, if I recall correctly, first 2 weeks of February. Our booth of PTTEP, the name is PTTEP, Exploration Production, but you don't see anything at our booth on Exploration Production. We just bringing our new innovation, to show to people what we have innovated in terms of using advanced technology to help the E&P. So we have the subsea inspection using a robot. We have the drone, which is a simple drone, but drone with the application that we have into the inspection of the E&P and beyond E&P. And we also move into the area of smart farming, use the drone with the connectivity of the platform, the data platform to do smart farming. So that will be what we're showing in the PTTEP booth. So you go there, you see the part of the Thai Pavilion because we're supporting the innovation. Mm-hmm. So I think this World Expo is a great event, because if you want to see E&P, you go to a conventional E&P conference somewhere, and then you talk about E&P. But this is the venue that you can actually talk about anything beyond E&P, anything on innovation, technology, and collaboration.
Well, I look forward to seeing it in person in February next year.
Don't forget to visit the booth.
I'll expect my invite in the post.
Okay.
So, final question.
Sure.
Any final thoughts for us? What is your expectation for 2022? How do you see things going in the short term?
2022 will be a challenging year because we're coming out from this pandemic, endemic, and so on. But to see the balance, coming back to oil and gas, the balance of supply demand, it's one thing that I really want to see, because I don't want to see the price go high up and then collapse. We see so many V-shape, L-shape in the last 20 years. We don't want that again. We want something more sustainable. But that's harder than said, because it's to see that happen, you need to actually catch up with the supply to meet the demand. But if I would say something, I think collaboration. I don't know if you noticed, PTTEP had changed our vision. 3 years ago, we came up with a new vision called PTTEP is the energy partner of choice. So we do energy when we like to be our partner with everyone. The landscape had changed. The landscape had changed from the competition to more of the collaboration. So we like to see that 2022 is the beginning of the new challenges we see, coming back to the oil and gas, energy transition coming throughout a period of time, 10, 15 years before we see something. But we need to see collaboration amongst our partners, host nation in UAE, and any country that we go to invest in.
Collaboration.
Yeah.
Great. Well, on that note, Montri, thank you for your time. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Thank you.